Celestia Quixis has a blog, a WordPress AI podcast pipeline, and a prognosis of September, and she is using all three to make sure the record exists, even if no one reads it yet.
Today, we're in the territory of coercive control, what it looks like day to day, why leaving isn't a choice available to everyone, and what happens when the systems meant to help simply don't have a box for your situation. Let's start with the story itself.
The post sets up a specific and brutal arithmetic. A person with end-stage lung disease, Cor Pulmonale and hypoxia, sharing a residential hotel unit with an ex-husband who is also the only available caregiver, in a room she describes as 160 square feet.
The post lays out the mechanism precisely. Tactics documented include overriding her oxygen and pet care instructions, financial exploitation via asset gifts and payments, privacy invasions, and threat-like behaviors that trigger adrenaline spikes, risking heart failure or hemorrhage.
That last clause is the one that reframes everything. This isn't frustration at a difficult roommate. An adrenaline spike for someone with her cardiac profile is a clinical event.
The cat feeding episode in the post illustrates exactly that chain. She asks him to feed the cats on an event-based schedule, when he wakes up, when he gets home, because cats track human movement, not clocks. He substitutes a rigid 12-hour interval. She calls it out. He says she's making it a hassle. She goes outside to de-escalate. Hours later, she is in a tripod position with a blown-out lumbar from the coughing fit the stress triggered.
And his response to being told the fight could make her keel over was reportedly, whatever.
The post connects this to a wider pattern. The piece titled Surviving Coercive Control documents that Adult Protective Services visited in February 2025, classified the situation as relationship difficulties, and then screened her out entirely when she reported escalation in January 2026 because she can still force herself through activities of daily living.
The system's definition of vulnerability apparently requires you to be unable to open a can before it counts.
The post is explicit about why leaving isn't an option, and a companion piece, Why Just Leave is a Can't, Not a Won't, maps the full structural trap. No housing assistance when you're already housed, no shelter equipped for oxygen-dependent terminal patients, and SSA systems that would flag any new lease. The financial history is documented in a piece called Relationship Accounting, which tracks assets transferred to him, including a van given in exchange for help relocating after a family crisis, and establishes that the current dependency was purchased over years, not chosen last week.
The post also documents the family context. After a 2019 murder-suicide involving a relative, she refused to validate a conspiracy theory the family constructed around the event. She details that refusal in From Aloha to Golgotha and Dismantling the Delusion. The family's response was ostracism. When she later called her sister and offered to pay rent for one of 10 empty rooms, the answer was that she had burned her bridges.
The phrase she uses for why she is publishing all of this is direct. There will be a permanent record. The post frames documentation not as an appeal for intervention, but as testimony against erasure. Her words on the page outlasting the people who would prefer her reality didn't exist.
Which makes the WordPress AI podcast pipeline less of a content strategy and more of an evidence locker. The post closes on the irreversibility of the trajectory. Increasing hypoxia, decreasing mobility, a caregiver whose pattern will not change, and names that plainly without softening it. What stays with me is the phrase permanent record, not as a threat, but as the only form of witness available when every institution has already looked away.
The posts don't ask to be believed right now. They just ask to exist. That's a different kind of argument, and it's one worth sitting with. Until next time.